Hi guys, welcome to the Unpopular Opinion. I'm Kemi.
Claire.
And we're real.
Rob. And we're saying it all.
I got it on the first time.
Good job.
Thank you. Welcome to another episode of the Unpopular Opinion. Again, don't panic because Prim is not here. She will
Be back.
Okay? Should we pause for you guys to just let that sink in?
Breathe.
Okay, so she will be back. Anyway, fun episode, but also I feel like we're going to get deep. You guys get the feeling? That
We're going to get deep.
We're going to get some deep
Yeah.
topics here. But let me introduce the new person on set today. This is, what title should I use?
Oh, we are talking titles. I thought you were just going to go with the name, but the title is Reverend Captain.
Reverend Captain Gideon Muhima. Welcome to the Unpopular Opinion. Why are people laughing? You guys think we can't host clergy? You guys. But shout out to the team at Nzou Media Hub. They do the most to make us look good and sound good. Details in the description. But welcome, Gideon.
Thank you.
We're really excited to have you.
Happy to be here.
This conversation is going to be about a couple of things. And that's why you've already seen the title, A Match Made in Heaven. Can we just shout out Joanita for coming up with that title? What up? So we're going to talk about relating, in particular relating, should I say romantically? I guess we could call it that. I've seen this, and I actually pulled it up from like a long time ago. I keep seeing it everywhere. People keep saying that the person, wait, I'm now on the wrong page. It's fine. The person that you marry, like the choice of person that you marry is probably the most important decision you'll ever make in your life. And this particular thread there's this gentleman they did some kind of study. And so there's like actual graphs where they're showing us, the time in your life spent with your partner, what is the trajectory? And it just keeps going up, 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 up. Same with the time with yourself. Then the time with children keeps dipping. The time with co-workers keeps dipping. So for sure, the person you decide to spend your life with is an important one.
Crucial.
So why? Well, why would you say that's so important? I think it's important to note that Gideon is happily married.
I am.
Have been for how many years?
5 years this year.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I usually get not yet.
Really?
You're about to see.
Lovely. I think that's lovely. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. We made 5 this year. We've had quite an amazing time, and it can't be true. The decision you make for the person you get married to, it will break or make you.
Yeah.
There is no two ways about this. There's no doubt about this, that the person you end up with either will help you become the person you ought to be, or will destroy the possibility of the person you would ever be.
Is it safe to say there's no middle ground?
I don't think there is.
Oof.
I do not.
It's an absolute.
I from the little experience I've had with the 5 years, and I've been a priest for about 8 years now, and the kind of work I deal with a lot of marriages.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
No
I've just imagined a priest vibing me.
How would that look like?
No. Can you invite your wife to tell us what it was like for her
to be revived by a priest?
You might want to.
Let's have you on the show, sis. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, so with all of that experience, I can categorically say, I do not think there's a middle ground on this.
Yeah.
They will either help you become the person you need to be, or they will break you.
Why is that?
Part of the reason, the biggest reason really, is because this is where most of your life is shared. And you've invested not just your resources, you've invested your heart, you've invested. And the reason I'm using the word heart here is because this is the seat of affections, the seat of passion, the seat of longings,
emotions.
Dreams, passions. The heart is the seat of all of this. And whomever you give it to,
you have to be very careful.
Yeah, you've got to be careful who you're giving this heart to, or who you're sharing it with.
Yeah.
And so, for everyone that gets into this with the hope and they have an imagination, an impression what marriage should be, and they invest in that. And
That
so,
vision.
yeah, so the person you end up with ought to help you facilitate that vision, or will destroy it.
So,
Can we have a moment of silence? I feel like that's
just like
heavy.
that, actually, let's drink water because
Just drink water.
the thing about this is it's making my
Wait,
tongue
it's
dry.
hydrating.
My mouth is dry because of the weight of.
You know, I keep thinking about, now you put it that way, I keep thinking about all these, just find a man and get married. Just find a woman and get married. Why aren't you getting married?
Yeah,
Like, people throw it around as if it's just a casual a casual thing. It's like, excuse me, why aren't you married?
yeah, and that's a recent. It's a recent development.
Yeah,
because previously, in our African cultures, people didn't just get into. They didn't just say, find someone. No, their families found the persons for you.
True.
And it was based on a lot of information that was given, and so that's why some did last longer, even in spite of the patriarchal norm. You know, there was a sense of value that was given to marriage. A picture that was given that we can't see much of more this time because of the highly sensualized and sexualized environment that we're living in, that has summed up marriage to mean great sex and lots of money. You know, and you have a place in society because you have a Mrs. to your name.
This is true.
When you reduce marriage to that, you're definitely going to have people pushing you. You just get married. Just. It has become more so in church, and this is something that most church folk do not like about me. I have been an advocate for singleness, enjoying singleness, because it is there in the society that then we will begin to appreciate marriage. If you do not appreciate or value singleness and invest in that, you are going to be a half-baked individual going into a marriage with another half-baked individual.
Ooh, well said.
Jesus Christ, I feel like you need to repeat that for the people in the back.
That will be the sound bite that we remove
from, like...
But I mean, speaking of, you know, all of this like importance and weight, we can't not talk about the red flags, because I know that the draw of marriage and love is so strong. You know, it's in the content, it's in the, I don't know, everything just is like pulling you to be a wife, pulling you to be a husband. And so because of it, we miss things. And so for all the singles out there,
including yourself.
What are a couple of things? I know, I mean, there are many things I know that are important to look out for or watch out for and whatever, but what are a couple of things that you think are important for someone to consider? You know, like, oh, that's actually, that's not, that one is a red one, or maybe that one is a green one.
Yeah, let me speak more in more general terms, and then I will be specific from my point of view. As a priest, as a Christian believer. Generally, I think the topmost issue that one needs to address, that we look at and be like, that's a red flag or that's a green, is the shared values. I think that for me trumps everything else. And you see, the shared values are a core to your identity, and that's the thing that people don't get. Like we might dress up and say, hey, I like babies. And then you get into marriage, like, no, that was just to get you in. Right? But I don't like them. And so to really understand what those shared values are, you have to take a step into understanding who the person is. And I think I did this with you. Whenever I ask the question, every time I counsel couples, I ask them the question, who are you? I ask the guy to tell me who she is. Because if he can't answer that question, then who is he loving? You understand? Yeah, like if you can't answer the question.
Louise.
You know, if he's saying I love you more than anything, like, okay,
more than what?
But who
what
is
do you
it that
love?
you're loving? Who are you loving? And so people are conflating, and because of what society has done, is that we have reduced our identity to our performance. So when they are asked who are you, you then begin to give an answer like a CV. I am this, I am all this. but that's not who you are. That's what you are. That's what
Yeah.
that's what you have achieved over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So if I reduce my identity to what I do, then I am going to constantly be in a fight to perform,
Yeah.
to want to do the things that I need to do because that's who I am. And when
True.
that fails, hey, I have failed as a person.
Yeah, there's nothing
So
left.
one of two things is going to happen. Either I am going to look for an escape so that I don't feel the pain of losing myself,
Yeah.
or I'm going to find my identity in things like marriage. That's why people
Okay.
rush into those things. That's
The wisdom you're giving us today is a lot.
Friends, do you know who you are?
yeah. So the question is, who are you? And the answer to that question, I discovered over the years when you translate that question, who are you, in our vernacular, for most of the vernacular languages in Uganda, like mine, that question is not. It is more is more asking, who do you belong to, or your woha.
What? Yeah.
Who do you
What
belong
is your value
Yeah,
system of the people where
exactly.
you come from?
So the identity is about the things that you belong to, the people that you belong to, the culture you belong to, the tribe you belong to. That is what forms
Who
your
you are.
identity. I belong to this. This is
Oh
who
my God.
I am. And so those are the things that define you. So that's where we need to ask, because of these things, what's your view on men? What's your view on women? What's your view on marriage?
Yeah.
That's it. Because when you deal with that background, you are able to see clearly. That's what this person thinks about marriage, because they come from. The reason they were asking that question was because they needed to see the value of family,
Yeah.
because that's where you're coming from.
Yeah.
What do those people think about men, women, marriage, family?
Things
Because-
like cheating,
Yeah,
things like
things like-
religion,
exactly.
things like
Exactly. So when you address that, then you're able to say there's a red flag here, because if this guy is coming from a broken home and he has chosen to have his identity in his work, in his identity in his prowess, in his identity in the things that he can achieve,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem.
yeah.
True.
That's going to be a problem, and that needs to be rectified before they go into any marriage. I wouldn't recommend
Doing it after the
after
marriage.
that marriage.
Yeah.
It is a lot more heartbreaking.
Do you think that happens often because also it's usually like a lack of sense of self? Because if I don't know my values, how do I know what?
Yeah.
How do I not
Absolutely.
even seek certain things in
Absolutely, and that's what brings me now. That's a segue into the value that I stand for as a Christian, is that the awareness of self is not necessarily what the world pushes. It is more to do with, who does God see me as? Because I'm saying I belong to Him first. And so I usually say, am I a Muchiga before I am a Christian, or am I a Christian
Before you're a
Muchiga?
chica.
If I'm a Muchiga before I'm a Christian, my Muchiganess is going to define my view of Christianity.
Yeah.
My Muchiganess is going to define my
Your view of your wife.
of my wife,
That's true.
of my hopes and my dreams and my achievements.
Yeah.
And so, and that can easily be seen when you dig deeper as you're in a relationship heading towards marriage.
Yeah.
As you dig deeper, you can easily see what is defining the person
Yeah.
in their view of women, because they can be all as romantic as they possibly can be with you,
Yeah.
but then with your friends, or with how they treat their workmates, the things they say when they drive past the red lights, and be like, hey, this is how Uganda is. That's a red flag. It's just that you're seeing their value system now,
Someone else.
and it's being. Most people marry such men because they are blinded by the romance they bring forth, because they have mastered the art of romance.
Yeah.
Love bombing.
Yeah. They love bomb.
Bomb.
They love bomb you, and they have
blast
mastered
you.
the art, and that's why you're presented with such a.
Okay.
And so you have so many couples ending up. And by the way, statistically speaking, according to I think a Swedish company did its research in Uganda and discovered in 2020, 370,000 couples end in divorce every year.
300 what?
20,000. This is in 2020
Alone.
alone. By 2020, that was what was happening.
Number is staggering.
Yeah. It's a lot worse now. I would imagine it's a lot worse now.
I keep saying because of those shocking statistics, people need to put the brakes on,
Right.
in the rushing. And I've been crucified for this, but I say, youth. You know how the Bible says, like, bloom of youth. You just wait until the bloom of youth is done. You know, I see a lot of people getting married early, really, really early. At that point, you barely know who you are. Let's face it. I've been 23 before, you know, and I got married really young. I had no clue who I was, let alone the values of my ancestors, you know, my families and stuff. I had no perception of what the values of the person I was marrying are. You get? And I feel like I'm better capable of doing so now. I'm better capable right now to say, okay, these are my values. These things are non-negotiable. You get? These things are, I'm sorry, what do you mean you're mean to a waiter? What do you mean you're mean to your workers? You know? Why does that make sense? I would be able to see it as a red flag now at this age, as opposed to when I was 23. Because at 23, I want flowers, you know, and the things that I was forefronting were things I really should have been back-ending.
It makes sense because everything else, all the other red flags flow out of the issue of values.
Values, yeah.
Actually true.
Oh my God.
Everything else that you're going to be, whether a guy is controlling and whether a guy is demeaning or just looks at you as a sexual being and not a piece of meat and not anything more than that. All of that is as a result of what values
you have
or don't have, and for everyone, And this is another thing. For the most part, here in our country, girls are raised to become wives.
Yep.
Boys are raised to become men.
Yep.
Not husbands.
Yep.
Usually.
I'm gonna say it again.
Yeah. Girls,
see you.
So when you have
the agreement is high in the room. Okay, the men are quiet.
Yeah. So usually you have men who are being told you have to be a man, be hard, be what, do this, be, that is what the world demands. You need to protect, provide for all this stuff. And when a guy is conditioned to do that, the sense of affection, of sacrificial love. Sacrificial love is a value that is inculcated in an individual from another. Like, it's not something you sit there and you say, today I'm just going to sacrifice myself.
To receive the sacrificial love.
We are all essentially depraved in that sense that we're
selfish
at the core, particularly men.
Men,
because there is a sense in which we want to survive, and that self-preservation is expressed in our selfishness, and that is a story as old as time. From the very beginning, when the relationship between us and God broke, then the relationship between us and
women
broke. There was no way so when I feel threatened by the existence of another person, I'm going to do whatever it takes to preserve myself. So if you tell me be a man, basing on the conditioning of
that you had,
I'm going to be.
And that brings out your selfishness.
That brings out my selfishness. That brings out my controlling effect. Because one of the effects of our rebellion toward God as men is that we, in the way we relate with women, is we wanted to control them, but not want. We will control. We will rule over the women. The Bible tells us that. And the woman will desire for that control as well, but we will rule, and that rule is from a broken place.
So you'll misuse.
Yes, we were both meant to rule the world, and now we're ruling each other. And that's the brokenness of the world. And over the millennia, we see what's happening, the replication of the sinfulness, the brokenness. And so we see the relationships as they appear. Men generally wanting to get for themselves what they can What do I get out of this as they go into it? What do I get out of this marriage as they go into it?
And the reverse is true for
Yeah,
women.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's a constant giving. Like the urge to give is almost overpowering.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, what more can I sacrifice? In the episode before this, we were talking about
Yeah.
that.
You know, that makes me think of this scripture in the Bible where women were told they would yearn for their husbands' love. And I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
It was one of our punishments.
Yeah, so that's Genesis
It was
3.
one, yes.
You're right.
It was one of our punishments. That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's probably why, because the previous episode we're talking about why women, you know, have all this suffer love and stuff and everything. And one of the things that we were punished with as women, including childbirth, was the pining for men. I don't know if many people don't know this actually, but it is a punishment, and it's inherently in us that if you have a significant other, you're going to want his acceptance. But I think because the men are broken, so we're constantly pining for it. What do you think about that scripture?
It's a very interesting scripture, and the majority of the world has read it as that the women are, they were
Punished.
But first of all, I call them consequences more than punishments. That God pronounced what was bound to happen because they chose God. They chose against God.
So the yearning is supposed to be for God.
Yes.
But now,
so for as long as our yearning is for God, our relationships
satisfied.
with one another are going to flow.
Okay, and flourish.
When that breaks, then this is broken.
Yeah.
And so when that breaks, the consequences of that are what God pronounces in Genesis 3. And one of them, yes, is that, and the phrasing is, your desire will be for your man.
Yeah.
Now, people think that it is about pining over the man. But the pining over the man is a tool for the real issue. Because now in Genesis 4, the same wording is used for sin pursuing Cain. Sin has a desire for you to control. That's the issue. That because of the broken relationship, there will be a desire for control, and then I will, as a clapback, rule.
Okay, wow, that's...
Yeah.
We first paused.
Just take this information in. Are you guys feeling what we are feeling? Because
so
we're in school.
We are legit clergy school.
So that, I think that for most people miss it that way.
Yeah.
And even use it to abuse relationships.
Yes.
So you guys are supposed to desire us. We're supposed to rule over you because that Bible says. But he really was pronouncing the brokenness of relationship between man and woman.
Okay.
And so the man rules over the woman as a result of his own broken state, because he has strength, power, and authority that he is abusing.
Yeah.
Right? It was supposed to be a gift,
but it's been abused.
But it has been abused, and that gift was meant to protect, to provide, to
love.
Yes, and all of these things were meant for the reflection of God's glory. We are the only creatures that bear the image of God.
Yeah.
And so, because since we're the only creatures that bear the image of God and reflect that, when that image is distorted, then we create a wild,
dynamic
experience that is destructive in every sense of the word. And so, and that's what we call sin. When sin enters our hearts, we are inherently selfish. We are depraved in that sense, that we want what is ours. So when women are pining over the man's whatever, the real issue is the need for control. Because the moment they can control a man with their femininity, they have power. The moment you can get a man to do what you want, there's a sense.
It's interesting. I think, like, in what you've just been describing, you've managed to give me as me.
Yeah.
I've never. This might be the best description of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity.
That's
together.
it. Yeah. That's it.
Well done.
Well
From the
done.
very beginning. Thank you.
Yes, oh my.
So much. I'm understanding deeply.
Yeah. From the very beginning, the toxicity started there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we want to have control, we will do whatever it takes. We will abuse our authority. We'll abuse our power. We'll abuse our strength to keep you in check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know you want our control.
Yeah.
So is that why? Do you reckon that's why? Because now there's like more of a movement of like what are we calling it online? A movement of just men
Decentering.
sort of embracing a little bit more of their
dates of
feminine
this
side
world.
or their softness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? And,
Yes.
and there's just like all this, now there's like this, clap back of like, but what do you mean? Men should be men
Yeah.
when they're not men. And it's like, but no one is saying men shouldn't be men.
men. Just
They're
be
saying that
soft, that's all.
masculinity doesn't have to be all these
Toxic.
tough,
Yeah.
yeah,
Control.
Yeah.
control
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like what are your feelings on that?
No,
Like, as far as masculinity and femininity and what that contributes to how we relate with each other.
Yeah, I think that, again, in a broken state of this world, we will have broken masculinity and broken femininity. We will
Yeah.
see.
There's
a
no
lot-
avoiding
no,
it.
So, again, femininity can be abused
Yeah.
for the
absolutely,
control that
yeah.
they desire to have, and masculinity will be abused. And so, when you have men clapping back and saying, "No, men should be men," they're trying to take back.
Fight their
Yeah,
control,
they're
their
trying-
power.
They want the control. They want to be like, I am who I am. And again, that is because the values that have been passed down to them have shown them that this is who a man is.
Yeah.
And so they're fighting for that.
True.
But from a Christian perspective, we have a clear definition of who a man ought to be in Jesus Christ. That is why we as Christians are always constantly telling everyone to pursue the heart of Christ, because when you pursue the heart, remember the heart is the seat of affections, emotions. When I give my heart over to that reality, then I am on a trajectory. I am pursuing that kind of holiness, in the sense that I'm being set apart. I am being drawn away from what the world defines a man to be. And I am now looking at who God defines a man to be, because he's the one who created me to be the kind of man I need to be. And so, while there might be some truths in the things they're fighting for, because again, when femininity has been abused, and you have the movements of feminism coming in, I call them the neo-hyper-feminism, that isn't originally, the feminism was to do with, look, women are as valuable.
Equity.
Yes. But now you have some sect of women who are saying, we don't need the men. Men are not valuable at all. And so you have men who are reacting to that. Because the truth is that the world is hearing the angry feminist women who have been hurt and are saying men are useless. The world is hearing those days.
Yeah.
They are loud. They are out there. Because
Aggressive.
they are angry. Because they
And
want
with
the
good
control.
reason,
Yes,
Shame.
absolutely. So you have men responding
Fighting
to that,
back.
fighting back. But we also, because we don't have regulations on how we should fight, we have our masculinity is being tampered with, and we have the pride. We want to fight the thing back. We want, like, let's show you that we are the men. We will we'll come back, we'll insult you, we'll make you feel like you are less than, because you're making us feel the same way. And the cycle will continue. As long as the value system is defined by the world, we are this is not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to get
The
worse.
battle of the sexes is never going to end.
Like those extremes that are always going to keep
Always.
clashing.
Always.
So let's talk a bit about the emotional, like you've seen couples, people who have clearly married the wrong people. Yeah. The emotional toll it takes.
First of all, even just observing that must be.
Just let me catch you in.
Yeah.
There are times when I'm like standing up there and I've seen the couple walking.
And you're like, wow.
And like, somebody should say something about this thing.
Someone should come up and stand up and
I
say.
ask the question, is there anyone in this congregation who thinks this is not right?
Someone should be standing
And I
up.
give it all the time, like, guys, no one?
Okay.
I guess.
I'll see you in my office in 2 years.
Oh, shame.
And as day comes after night, they come.
They come.
They do come. So, yeah. Anyway,
The emotional toll, like obviously it takes an emotional toll. As we said, this is a really, really, really important decision, the person you marry. And obviously now, because I made a decision to marry you because of all the romance and stuff, and I did not bother to look at your value systems and whatnot. Now it's 2 years in.
We're together.
What do those emotional, because I feel like, first of all, married people don't talk.
No,
Yeah, I hear, especially in the Christian communities,
because
they
if
talk
then
to themselves. Married, like, I don't understand why married fellowships are just married people. I personally don't get it.
Maybe married people need support from other married people.
Yes, they do, but there should be a mix so that the single people understand, because this is so important. They need to understand it. Does that make sense? And often we're flying in blind. That's the truth. No one knows any information based off of, we use our information based off of the marriages we saw, which was usually our mom and dad, if your mom and dad were even married, you know. So, and it will obviously take an emotional toll on both the guys and the women. I know we ignore the men a lot, but they obviously also go through their own
emotional.
So talk a bit about what that looks like.
Again, I'll speak from the perspective of a guy, and a Christian guy at that. First of all, most Christian men, for most of the time I have been serving, it is difficult for them to express the emotional toll that's on them with the relationships that they have, because they are afraid of being looked at as weak, as being faithless, or as being impatient, and so they try to endure. They just hold on and wait and whatever. But some of them get into very dark habits, pornography, especially pornography. For the majority of men, because it's an escape. It's not like the thing that they're enjoying to do, because some men do, but for the majority of Christian men that fall prey to pornography, it's an escape from their reality, and their reality seems to dictate that they are failing at every point. That they are not, and that's the emotional toll that's on them. That why am I not being the man that I thought I was? Why am I always in spaces where people are complaining, men are like this, men are dogs, men are cheats, well, you're not good enough, you're not loving enough, you're not doing, and at the same time, we are the ones who, the weight is on us to be the providers, to be the protectors, to be all this, and so we escape in our work, we escape in pornography,
habits.
We escape in our habits, we escape into the bottles and alcohol and all that.
At the bar.
We keep having all of these things, and we are unable to connect with our wives. We're unable to communicate with our wives because we feel like they just won't understand. And if we try to talk to them, we feel like there's a barrage of counter arguments about where we're at, that we don't understand.
So how can, maybe this will take us in a different direction. Just like the moment you said that, I thought, if I was a wife hearing that, I would think, so then how can I support you in that place?
That's a very good question. And the answer has always been, as all this time, listen.
Okay.
Pay attention and listen and pray. Pray for this guy. Because when you say you're giving your heart, he has just been vulnerable with you on this thing. And he needs, the kind of affection that guy needs isn't, it might not even necessarily mean you saying, I love you, I'm here for you and whatnot. But the feeling safe that he can say these things and not feel like he's as bad as all other men. Which usually is what happens when he opens up. When he opens up.
Usually what would happen, and I remember I fell prey to this, is that when he finally opens up about what he's struggling with, I then open up about what I'm struggling with based off of what he's struggling with. And then it just becomes, and now I'm like, ladies, married women, You listening to this? And singles as well, because you're preparing. You know, if you ever want to get married, these are such important conversations. I didn't know this. Yeah, I've learned this from you, and it was one of the best things I have ever learned in marriage.
Thank you.
I won't lie.
Same here.
Yeah.
So one of the best things I've learned is the fact that we are unable to, if we do not hold ourselves to a standard, a value that is beyond us, that we're not the ones who set the standard. God and defines the standard and distributes it through a community that we belong to. And so when we remove God from the picture, whatever is left is abysmal. We cannot have community of that. We'll have a form of it. We will have a semblance of it. We will have pretensions.
Yeah.
But we won't have the real thing.
I want to ask you a question, which is like, I don't know,
You
unpopular maybe.
Yeah.
But because you're a Christian man, and I mean, you even work with couples, like you've had all this experience actually talking to people who are married, and you're married yourself. Do you feel that, and I'm glad actually we started from a point of shared values, because that's even before you're any other thing, like what are your values as a person? Do you feel that, that there could be people who are outside of faith, and they're not people of faith, but then they know their values, they have found their person with their values, and they're having a good marriage?
Yeah, I mean...
do you think?
I think so. And the reason I think so is the end goal of the marriage. Who determines that? From a point of a Christian, it doesn't matter if you're married 50 years. If God is not in that picture, it's a failed marriage.
Okay.
Right?
So it just depends on where you're seated.
Exactly. So if you're an atheist or someone who for whom God is not in the picture, your reward is here now. That your marriage is just for here and now, that you have achieved what the shared values would be, that hey, you do your thing, I do my thing. Some couples who have decided to have an open marriage, shared values, right?
And it works.
And
by the way, that's okay. It works for some
for them.
people.
I mean, it depends on who is determining what is working.
Yeah.
Anyway, what is working?
That's the thing. You can only determine if it's working if you have shared values.
Yeah, you look at the polygamous marriages, shared values, right? And it somehow is working, but then they're married for 50 years and whatnot. But at the end of the day, as a Christian, from my standpoint, God is the one who started this issue of marriage. And it is his standard alone that I'm going to stand by to say, I don't think that's a successful marriage. Because by his standard, that's not it.
However, in the Bible, there's I forget names. It's been a while.
Thanks for admitting this.
Yeah, it's been a while. By the way, I knew all these things at some point, and then it's been a while. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that there's a specific scripture or story of this couple, of the woman was told to be a certain way so that they can win the husband over, because God respects marriage regardless of... I felt like that scripture kind of told me how God respects marriage regardless of whether the other spouse is...
Right.
Is Chris? You know what I mean? Like they told the woman, be like this, so that you can win. She was married to a non-believer.
Yes, 1 Peter 3. I totally understand that portion of scripture all too well. And yes, so that they can win.
Yeah.
But the winning isn't winning him to them.
To God. Winning him to God.
That their behavior is in the hope that this man, more than anything, will fall in love with God.
Yeah.
That they will get to know God.
Yeah.
That is why they do the things that they do. That is 100%. Why. So he says, wives, submit to your husbands. And he says that, and a quiet and gentle spirit is that thing that is valued. And who knows that out of that man that you're married to that doesn't know God will come to know God because of your character. Yeah. The importance of emphasizing that the issue isn't to make
win
the man
to you.
Yes.
It's win to God. Yes.
And that's the value in a Christian marriage is when I'm married. When I got married to my wife, I had to constantly remind myself, I am not in this thing for her to love me as much as I am in this thing for her to love God. John Piper is the one who says it, and I always say it everywhere I go. Marriage is not meant for happiness. It is meant for
Glory of
holiness.
God.
It's meant for holiness. Holiness that is set apart. It is a sanctifier. It is a refiner. And anyone who goes in it and has been married for quite a bit, they know that there are fires within this marriage because of our differences, because of our selfishness, because of our brokenness. And marriage kind of helps and melts that and exposes our hearts. When I look at my wife as God's instrument to make me holy, I can't help but love her even more. And when I see that my being married to my wife is God using me to help her be more holy, more set apart, I am not going to be apologetic about all
Loving
the things
your
about loving her and about the failures that I'm going through, because in all of these things, God is using them to help her be. That's my intention. That's how I should be loving her. And that's what the purpose of marriage within the Christian context should be about. But we have romanticized it and made it seem to be about us and how we should look for the right person.
He has to be a Christian man, and
You're a guy, you should be chasing after. This is the unpopular opinion.
yeah.
I do not think men should be chasing after women.
Oh, tell
Okay,
us more
tell
about
us
that part.
Yeah, I do not think so. I think, again, this was within the unpopular Christian opinion.
Yeah.
When you look at the couples within the scriptures, there are only 3 that I can come up with that I would call almost perfect. Only 3 of all the couples in the Bible. The first is Adam and Eve. The second is Isaac and Rebekah. The third is Mary and Joseph. And all those 3 had this one thing. God was at the center of it. Number 1, Adam and Eve slept, did not seek after, was not even looking for Eve. He was content in himself. And that's the thing. People think that it was not good for Adam to be alone because he was lonely. No, the word was alone, not lonely. And he had everything. He had everything that he needed. It wasn't even about companionship because he was walking with God in the cool of the evening. Who can be better companion than God himself, the creator of the universe? Okay. So why does God think that it is not good for man to be alone? Because again, in Genesis 1, he created them male and female in his image. Man alone could not reveal the image of God. He had to be in community for the image of God to be. And the image of God here is love, really, because God is love. And you can't love in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So you have to be in a community to love. And so when you see Isaac and Rebekah, Isaac was not looking for Rebekah, but God was in the mix of looking for Rebekah. There was a whole story about how she came and the character of looking for the kind of woman that would be suitable for Isaac. Isaac wasn't looking. Joseph was betrothed, and when he found out that Mary was pregnant, Joseph was a man of honor. He would have otherwise ousted her and she would be worthy of being stoned to death.
Yeah, because she was pregnant out of wedlock.
Yeah, but he protected her and he was a man of concern. He was going to withdraw quietly to protect her. And God intervened and revealed that this was not an ordinary child.
Yeah.
Those are the only 3 couples. But God was at the center of each one of them. And when you talk about all the other couples where men were chasing after, I mean, that's where we are seeing all the problems that we were seeing in the Bible.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I have never considered that in my
Yeah.
life.
So I do not think that men should be chasing after women, because if they do that, the women become trophies. The women become
And you know,
goals.
interestingly, naturally, a man who chases you as a woman, naturally, our instincts are to give in, usually.
That's it.
So we're not giving in
Being chased also
because
is enjoyable.
yes, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
You know,
And this is not to say that we shouldn't express our affection and whatnot. And I'm just saying that if my heart is pursuing a woman, she has become the idol.
And she's going to become a true.
Remember, because my affections, my passions, and all of these things, my heart has given. So she becomes the idol. Unfortunately, they don't always stay idols, because when they fail, then they become the sacrifice on the pedestal.
Is that why maybe sometimes you chase, you find men doing all these things before you get married,
Yeah.
and then when you get married, you become a normal human?
Precisely.
1 year
And
already.
they put
Yeah.
and so they stop doing all these things.
Yeah. So when I chase after a girl, God is not in the picture. And that's what used to happen to me as well. I was always chasing after girls because I was looking for girls that needed me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be needed. I wanted to be important. I wanted to be the kind of guy that they tell stories about. And that's why I was chasing after them.
Oof.
Until God had to break my heart severely.
You guys, we need even another episode.
Jesus.
Before we close, one more thing that I would love to hear
Yes.
a little bit of your thoughts on is, I mean, parting ways, because it's a thing that happens. And I know, especially, it can be like a really delicate thing when you're speaking about it within the confines of faith. You know, whether it's Christian faith or any other faith, it's such a delicate thing. Like, what? Because marriage is so sacred. So just, what are your thoughts?
That's a very delicate question you asked.
It is.
Considering where I stand. I think, first of all, divorce should not be in the equation of marriage, especially if marriage is meant for the reflection of God's glory. But when the marriage stops reflecting God's glory, then we see the possibility of divorce. And when God's glory is not being seen, we are seeing something else's glory.
Yeah.
We are seeing the man's glory, the woman's glory, their pride, their ignorance, their selfishness. But the conditions that were given for divorce, Jesus said, Moses gave you these conditions because of your hard hearts. But originally, this is what it was meant to be. If a man shall leave his father and mother and be united, the two will become one flesh. So the divorce certificates were given because of their hard hearts. But then he says, the only condition, Jesus' only condition for a divorce was adultery. And people don't quite understand the weight of that, because he values marriage so highly, because it reflects the image, it reflects the glory of God. When he then gives an out through infidelity then becomes one of the grievous, the
biggest,
the worst things that can happen within marriage. It's the worst because it's a parody against the glory of God. When a man decides to step out of his marriage and be with another woman, he has desecrated the covenant he has with his wife. And because he has desecrated it, he has misrepresented what marriage ought to be for the glory of God, for God to be seen. God is about his glory. He wants the world to know who he is. And he uses marriage as one of the best relationships through which he can reveal himself.
Yeah. Which is why the devil is coming for marriage.
And so the deception is in that you think you can have your cake
and eat it too.
So you think that so infidelity is the only out. So there are many other things that might be the nuances, and what about when he is emotionally abusing you and whatnot. I recommend separation, because separation gives room for reconciliation, for
growth,
for transformation.
Yeah.
Right? I recommend that on any other thing. Even with infidelity, I would recommend let's first separate and deal with the heart issues. All right? Because ideally, the issue is about marriage is made up of two good forgivers. Billy Graham, son, who said that marriage is made up of two good forgivers. And the reason is because we are sinful in our nature. We will fall short.
Yeah.
And sometimes we fall short even in our faithfulness to the couple. And so it is not a must that you must come back together, but it is a must for you to learn to forgive them.
Yeah. And forgiveness, for clarity, forgiveness doesn't mean coming back together.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It can lead to that.
Yes. And
we're hoping that it does lead to that. Forgiveness should be a reflection of your own understanding of God's forgiveness of your own sinfulness.
Yeah.
But extending it to the other person, what that looks like is determined by that couple and by God within that couple.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't there's no a one size fits all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
but
a case by case.
it's a case by case, and every couple that comes to me that wants to have that divorce, I'm like, let's
Take a
fine,
breather.
let's take a breather. Let's first think through. And the majority of them, these are issues that are reconcilable. These are issues that can be dealt with, even infidelity. When you dig deep and find out why this man has stepped out or why this woman has stepped out, and then reconciliation and love should be the thing that is pushing all of this. So I think that divorce should be the last resort. Separation shouldn't. Divorce shouldn't be the thing that because you cheated on me, we out. It also speaks to your own brokenness if you decide to step away that quickly. It speaks to your own brokenness, your own unforgiveness, your own state of heart that is unforgiving, things like that. So those are things that we ought to be addressing first before we deal with the marriage.
Can I ask one last question? Like, what are your tips? Like 3 or 4 tips of how to avoid marrying the wrong person? Like summarized tips.
Well, I probably would say it in just one statement. Do not marry a man or a woman that makes you feel like you are their world. Yeah. Marry one whose world is bigger than the two of you.
Big red flag.
Yeah. If they make you feel like you're the center of their lives, again, like I said, you're going to be their idol.
Yeah.
And eventually you will be the sacrifice on the altar of the God they are really serving, which is self.
Themselves.
Yeah. So it is.
I'm a bit silent for that one.
I think that would be the thing that
hydrate.
Yeah. So I would definitely be that would be the thing. Let's and for me to start looking for a woman whose world is bigger than my own, or who can see that my world is bigger than us, means that I need to see it first.
Yeah.
I need to deal with my own perspective first of what the world is and what reality is and what hope is, what faith is, before I can get myself in a relationship. And for those who are already in it, expand your horizons.
There's a lot of those ones.
Yeah. Please expand your horizon. Begin to think more broadly, and ask the question, what's the vision of my life?
Okay.
The 2 most important days of any person, I think you've had this, the day they were born, the day they discover why.
Hey.
I think you've given us a lot of things to introspect about. I know I have.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope that, and I don't hope, I think I know. I know that you guys have grabbed something, something that you can hold on to, but also we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Feel free to let us know what your unpopular opinions are around relating. Thank you so much, Gideon, for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. By the time this is showing, it will be post-live show.
Okay.
So some people will have already
had experience
to have to experience this conversation and other such conversations in person. So if you missed, okay, this is your bonus. You can be with us here today. But thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending another, hour or so. This is probably a long episode. Thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate it. And as always, shout out to Nzou Media Hub, who do our production, who set up these beautiful sets, who make sure that we sound the way we sound. But we know you're all going to be saying Gideon sounds better than us. It's fine.
Have you had the voice?
It's cool.
It's the voice.
Cool. We're okay with that. That's cool. But we'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.